Last Saturday evening, people across 5 countries looked up and saw a ball of fire tear across the sky. 6 seconds later, it was gone. And then, a rock from space punched a hole the size of a football through someone's roof in Germany. You're listening to Stardrift FM. Tonight, Artemis II finally gets its green light. A satellite the sun dragged home 8 years early. The hidden heartbeat inside our star. A meteorite that hit a house in Koblenz, the largest image ever taken of the Milky Way's core. And China opens its space station to the world. Grab your coffee, let's get into it. It's been a long road, but today NASA gave Artemis II its Flight Readiness review. The SLS, rocket, and Orion capsule are cleared to roll out to Pad 39B later this month, with launch targeted no earlier than April. 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen, will fly a 10-day loop around the moon and back. It's the first crewed mission beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in 1972. That's more than 53 years. Orion will swing about 10,400 kilometers past the far side of the moon and re-enter at roughly 40,000 kilometers per hour, the fastest crewed re-entry ever attempted. After months of helium leak headaches and a rollback to the vehicle assembly building, this is the moment Artemis has been building toward. No landing on this one, that comes later, but if Artemis II goes well, the moon is back on the table. Yesterday morning at 6:37 Eastern Time, a 1,300-pound NASA satellite came home. Then Allen Probe A burned up over the Eastern Pacific. Uncontrolled, no fuel left since 2019. The thing is, it wasn't supposed to come back until 2034. So what happened? The sun. Solar cycle 25 turned out to be far more active than anyone predicted. All that extra energy puffed up Earth's upper atmosphere. More particles at higher altitudes means more drag on anything in orbit. And Van Allen Probe A's orbit just decayed. 8 years shaved off the timeline almost overnight. The probe launched in August 2012 as part of a twin pair. Designed for a 2-year mission, it operated for 7. And it rewrote the textbook. Within weeks of reaching orbit, it discovered something no one expected: a transient third radiation belt. For 50 years, we thought there were 2. Turns out, sometimes there are 3. It lasted about 4 weeks, triggered by a coronal mass ejection, and then vanished. That single discovery changed how we design spacecraft and protect astronauts. And here's the connection. Those radiation belts, that's exactly what the Artemis II crew is about to fly through. Van Allen Probe B is still up there, not expected back before 2030. But given what the sun's been doing, maybe check back sooner. Speaking of the sun, here's something that just came out of the University of Birmingham. A team led by Sarbani Basu at Yale analyzed 40 years of data from the Birmingham Solar Oscillations Network. 6 telescopes around the world listening to the sun vibrate. Think of it like seismology, but for a star. The sun rings like a bell. Trapped sound waves make it oscillate, and those vibrations reveal what's happening deep inside. What they found is that the sun's internal structure measurably changes from one solar minimum to the next. And one minimum stood out. The 2008-2009 minimum between solar cycles 23 and 24 was one of the quietest and longest on record. Sunspot numbers dropped to the lowest in nearly a century. And the internal structure? Different. Higher sound speed in the outer layers, a larger helium signature, lower magnetic fields. The sun wasn't just quiet on the surface, it was structurally different underneath. And here's the kicker. Researchers at the Royal Astronomical Society say solar cycle 26 has already begun beneath the surface. Even while cycle 25 is still active up top, the cycles overlap. The seeds of the next one start years before the current one ends. If we can read these internal shifts, we might finally forecast solar cycles, which matters for everything from satellite drag to power grids to astronaut safety. Saturday, March 8th, 6:55 p.m. Central European Time. A bright fireball tears across the sky over Western Europe. lasted about 6 seconds. Cameras across Belgium, France, Germany, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands caught it. The All Sky 7 network recorded it. People filmed it on their phones. And then it fragmented. Pieces rained down over Western Germany. One of those pieces, a chunk roughly the size of a football, punched straight through the roof of a house and Koblenz goals. People were inside. Nobody was hurt. ESA estimates the original object was up to a few meters across. Field researchers recovered several centimeter-sized fragments. Preliminary analysis says they're chondrites, the most common type of stony meteorite. But here's the part that matters. Nobody saw it coming. The object approached from the sun's direction, the one part of the sky our surveys can't watch. Current systems scan the night side. Anything coming from the bright side? Invisible. Sound familiar? Chelyabinsk 2013, a 20-meter object, 1,500 injuries, also undetected. ESA's planetary defense team is collecting camera recordings and eyewitness data to reconstruct the trajectory. The Hera mission arrives at Didymos later this year to assess the DART deflection test. But even with DART, even with Hera, objects this small remain a blind spot. This time nobody was hurt. Next time, we'll see. This is the largest image ALMA has ever produced. 650 light-years of the Milky Way's core in a single mosaic. It comes from the ACES survey, the ALMA Central Molecular Zone Exploration Survey. And the first results were just published across 5 papers in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The Central Molecular Zone is the most extreme star-forming environment in our galaxy. It surrounds Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole at the center, and it's a place where the most massive stars live fast and go out young. What ALMA found is remarkable. Dozens of molecules, from simple ones like silicon monoxide and sulfur monoxide, to complex organics like methanol, acetone, and ethanol. Yes, acetone and ethanol in the most intense environment in the galaxy. The building blocks of life right next to a supermassive black hole. The team also mapped structures of every scale, from massive gas formations spanning dozens of light years, down to cold filaments around individual stars. The raw material from which new stars are born. ALMA sees what optical telescopes can't. 66 antennas in Chile's Atacama Desert, 5,000 meters up, observing in millimeter wavelengths that cut straight through dust. The question now is whether the star formation models we built for calmer environments still hold in a place like this, where radiation is intense, magnetic fields are extreme, and a 4 million solar mass black hole sits at the center. China's space station, Tiangong, is about to have its busiest year ever. 4 missions are planned for 2026, and 2 of them are historic firsts. First, one taikonaut from the Shenzhou 23 crew will stay on board for more than a year. China's first year-long mission. That puts them on par with NASA and Roscosmos endurance records. Scott Kelly's 340 days, Valery Polyakov's 437. Second, an astronaut from Pakistan will fly to Tiangong on Shenzhou 24 later this year. The first international visitor to China's station, the first Pakistani in space. China is the only country operating its own space station. The ISS is an international consortium. Tiangong is China's alone. And now they're opening the door to allies. And then there's Mengzhou, China's next-generation crewed spacecraft, designed for lunar missions, targeting a crewed moon landing by 2030. Its first orbital test flight is planned for this year. Last month, the Long March 10 carrier rocket completed a successful low-altitude demonstration flight at Wenchang, along with an abort test for the Mengzhou capsule. Both passed. The moon race isn't just Artemis anymore. China is moving fast, and they're not slowing down. That's your roundup. Artemis II is cleared for April. Van Allen Probe came home early, pulled back by a sun that's busier than we thought. That same sun has a hidden heartbeat, and it might help us forecast the next solar cycle. A rock from space punched through a roof in Germany and reminded us how little we see coming from the sun's direction. ALMA just mapped the Milky Way's core in unprecedented detail and found the ingredients for life in the last place you'd expect. And China is opening Tiangong to the world while quietly building a moon rocket. This is Stardrift FM. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.